Hi there! So if you've played Zelda 1 for the NES, heck, even if you haven't played it, you'll probably recognise this guy, the Old Man. And apart from offering Link the sword at the start of your adventure, this guy blesses the player with a variety of useful, or seemingly useful, advice. Things like Dig Dogger hates certain kind of sound. Great! Now I know that when I'm fighting the Dig Dogger boss, I should use my whistle. Or another one, aim at the eyes of Gohma. Perfect! When I'm fighting the Gohma boss, I'll be sure to hit it in the eyes with my bow and arrow. But some of the old man's advice is less handy. There's a secret in the tip of the nose. Where is the nose? I don't know. Does he even know? Or most famously of all, Eastmost Peninsula is the secret. What on earth does that mean? Where is the Eastmost Peninsula? Peninsula, double N. That's not even how you spell peninsula. And so, across most of the globe, millions of kids were left wondering where this so-called peninsula even was. And I'm not going to pretend to have all the answers. I don't have any insider information or anything. But I think if we take a look at some of the most common theories, we can decide for ourselves, not only where this peninsula is, but what all of the old man's messages mean. Let's take a shot. Hi there, welcome to Thomas Game Dogs. So today we're investigating the old man's cryptic messages from Zelda 1 for the NES. But before we get started looking at these cryptic messages, I think it will be helpful to look at a completely different set of cryptic messages. The Japanese ones. Maybe they're only cryptic because I don't speak Japanese. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu is about as far as I go. But thankfully, translator Clyde Mandolin has compiled a list of all the old man quotes and their original Japanese counterparts. Thanks, Clyde. So let's start with some of the easier to pin down quotes, working our way up to the more mysterious ones, eventually finishing with our old friend, Eastmost Peninsula is the secret. Ooh, exciting. But first, let us begin from the beginning. And our very first encounter with the old man is the absolutely iconic, "It's dangerous to go alone, take this." This phrase has been printed on t-shirts and mugs alike, both of which with the wrong font, but we'll let that slide. Heck, this person had it tattooed onto their back. But yes, this phrase. There's not much to uncover here, it's pretty self-explanatory. But if we compare it to the original one, we can see some slight differences. As translator Clyde Mandolin pointed out, the Japanese text begins from the top right of the old man's head. This was probably to give the rough idea of a speech bubble or something like that. However, when it came to the English version, a lot more room was needed to convey the same amount of information. And so the text was stretched out across the whole room's width. To be honest though, I kinda think it looks better like that. Anyway, moving on, there are some other encounters we have with the old man before we enter a single dungeon. Like this one, "Take anyone you want." I think that's also pretty self-explanatory. Just in case though, here's the original Japanese, which essentially says, "I'll give you anyone you want." Not much in it then. Oh, but let's pause for a second, because a little bit of nuance is being lost here. In Japanese, there's a whole lot more room for expression and dialect in a simple sentence like this. So while in English, "take anyone you want" doesn't really convey anything more than the sentence itself, the original Japanese
好きな方ら授けよう
carries a sort of old man vibe to it. The word choices, the vocabulary, it all helps to sell the image of an old man. Of course, this can be done with English. Take Hagrid from Harry Potter, for example.
"You're a wizard, Harry."
In the book itself, the famous line, "You're a wizard," is literally written, "You're a wizard," Y-E-R. And in fact, this very Zelda game does a similar thing with a couple of other characters. Take this shopkeeper. Buy something, will ya? Just from this sentence alone, we get a sense for who this character is. And that's cool. But as for the old man, there's not really a way to convey oldness in English. You could maybe use more formal language, but then I think you just end up sounding like a butler. Oh well. Right, I'm getting impatient, so let's skim through these last obvious ones. We've got "take any road you want," which might have sounded more like "take any path you want," but there's not really much in it. Oh, and that's what the old man says when you're choosing which shortcut to take across the world map. Talking of secrets, Zelda famously is littered with secret caves and entrances, but there's a few you might regret entering. "Pay me for the door repair charge," demands the old man with an aggressive swagger. Maybe I invented that last bit. In the original Japanese, he essentially says the exact same thing, maybe a little more like "you owe me" for the door repairs, but tomato tomato. Oh, but this is a good place to pause again, because there's actually more than one English translation of this game. The original NES game, plus the version hidden inside Animal Crossing, plus weirdly enough the 3DS Virtual Console, all of these use the original, pretty rough translation. But when the game was re-released for the GameCube, Nintendo decided to clean up a few of the more glaring translation errors. A lot of stuff didn't change, but there were a few lines here and there that Nintendo decided to update. This updated version wasn't just used for the GameCube release though. It can also be found on the Game Boy Advance, the Wii Virtual Console, and the Wii U Virtual Console. And there's an easy way to check which version you're playing. Look at the title screen carefully. Right at the bottom, there's this copyright notice, which reads Copyright Nintendo 1986. That's the original translation. But if you're playing one of the updated ones, the date will be updated at the bottom. In this case, the Wii U version says 2003 on it. Actually, the Switch is a bit of an outlier here because it doesn't have any updated copyright message, and it has its own translation again. It's basically the same as the revised one, but they change a few more things here and there. Like, for example, they finally removed the extra N from Peninsula. Congrats, guys! Anyway, returning to our pay me for the door repaired charge guy, the updated version of it removed the word charge. Pay me for the door repair. I suppose that does sound a little more natural, although I'm not convinced there's a whole lot in it. Alright, I'm sick of the overworld now, so let's enter a dungeon. It's time to go exploring, folks. Now, I was originally going to cover every single old man message from the game, but we're already 1,000 words into the script, so I'm going to stick to the more interesting, weird messages, okay? First off, there's a variety of bad grammar going on here. The infamous Eastmost Peninsula is the secret, which we'll get to later, plus Dungeon 5's Dig Dogger hates certain kind of sound. Oh, and Dungeon 6 contains Aim at the Eyes of Gomer, which sounds okay until you realise Gomer only has one eye. Now, I'm not trying to pick on anyone who's learning English, this language is hard, but this is an official, first-party Nintendo game. And this is the kind of thing that any native English speaker would spot straight away. So I figured maybe the translator is Japanese. How can we find out? Well, let's play End Credits Bingo. And to add an extra level of challenge, all the devs are using pseudonyms. 3, 2, 1, go! Yamauchi, Miyamoto, Takashi Tezuka, Toshihiko Nakago, Yasunari Sawajima, someone called Marui, who I don't know who they are, and our old pal Koji Kondo. Now, you might notice something. There's no translator listed. I did try looking a little more into it to find out who this mysterious translator is, but I ultimately came up blank. If you know who it is, or heaven forbid you could get me in contact with them, I would be forever grateful. Right though, I'm starting to get a little bored with this, so let's add some dramatic tension with a YouTube staple. A countdown. Number 5 is from, funnily enough, Dungeon number 5. Secret power is said to be in the arrow. Now what does that mean? Is that just telling us to use the bow and arrow? I mean, we've already been doing that for ages by Dungeon 5. Well, this is actually a super interesting example of regional console differences at work. I'm probably going to make a more in-depth video about this in the future, but I'll touch on it now. Let me introduce you to an unsuspecting little enemy called the Pole's Voice. Now, in the Japanese version of Zelda, this enemy was really unique. You see, the Famicom, the Japanese version of the NES, had a weird little feature inside one of its controllers. Unlike the NES, where you plug in the controllers yourself, the Japanese Famicom actually came with them pre-attached. Look, they slot in neatly, like that. Very satisfying. And in Player 2's controller, only Player 2's controller, there's this tiny little microphone, see? And so, Zelda's developers decided to make use of this within the Pole's Voice enemy. That's right, in the Japanese version of Zelda, their weakness is sound from the Player 2 microphone. Oh no, but how would anyone manage to figure out that obscure weakness? Well, that's where the Japanese old man has our back, letting us know there are some creatures weak against sound, or something to the effect of that in Japanese. Now, the NES controllers, both of them, lack any kind of microphone, so when the game was brought over to the good old US of A, the localizers had to replace that sound weakness with something else. And what they eventually decided on was arrows. Because of that, they swapped out "there are some creatures weak against sound" with the more applicable "secret power is said to be in the arrow." Now, I don't think this is a great hint, to be honest. I mean, it's so vague that I can't imagine it's of much use to anyone. Oh well, water under the bridge. Right, next up is number 4. In Dungeon 7, we meet the old man who proclaims there's a secret in the tip of the nose. And what on earth does that mean? What nose? What tip? I think you're getting a little bit senile, old man. Alright, so this is, I believe, a little bit disputed, because if we look at the game's map, there's nothing here that looks much like a face, except our lovely Link boy over there. But it's the same within the dungeon. None of these rooms look particularly face-like, do they? But it turns out this whole dungeon is apparently the open mouth of a demon, so much so that the dungeon is actually called the Demon. I guess if we add some lines here and some teeth, it kind of looks like it. I have to say I'm not buying it. But if we do imagine that this dungeon is the gaping mouth of some kind of demon, then I guess the nose would be somewhere around here. And it turns out this room in the top right is where you need to go to fight the dungeon's boss. Still kind of weird though. I mean, this room is shown on the map, so the hint's kind of pointless. And it turns out there's a reason it's pointless, because in the Japanese version of the game, this old man's hint is completely different. Spectacle Rock is an entrance to death. Yeah, that's not at all the same thing. It's not even a hint for the same place. It's referring to what you do after you've left the dungeon once you're ready for the final one. You head to this set of rocks, which look kind of like a pair of spectacles or glasses, and that's how you get to Death Mountain. I mean, this hint is crucial. Why they got rid of it from this dungeon is really anyone's guess. But instead, we ended up getting a pretty useless hint directing us to a room which isn't even hidden on the map. But would the developers really cut such a crucial hint? No, actually, because number 3 is up next, and the hint we're talking about now is found inside Dungeon 8, the next one. Spectacle Rock is an entrance to death. Wait. Yeah, this one probably seems kind of familiar. It's our old friend from Dungeon 7. But hang on, did the Japanese version just have the same hint twice? Well, no. This guy originally said, look for the arrows in Death Mountain. And that is crucial to finishing the game. You need arrows to defeat the final boss, Ganon. But the English game doesn't even tell you that you need to be looking for them. I mean, I really can't imagine what the localizers were thinking here. Translator Clyde Mandolin theorized that maybe a bunch of the hints accidentally got shifted along by one. But how no one managed to spot this before the game shipped is anyone's guess. Right, number 2. This is getting exciting. This next one is a real obscure one, and it can be found within Dungeon 8 again. 10th enemy has the bomb. Sorry, what? What does that mean? I mean, if I was 9 and 10 and playing Zelda as a kid, heck, even now at 17, I wouldn't have a clue what that means. I mean, 10th enemy of what? The 10th enemy you've killed? Well, it turns out this is actually hinting at a really obscure game mechanic. Get this, if you kill 10 enemies in a row without getting hit, and then kill the last one using a bomb, they'll actually drop more bombs when they die. But hey, isn't that really obscure and kinda stupid? Yes it is. I mean, this hint was in the game itself, and still no one figured out this bizarre game mechanic for years. Oh, and funnily enough, this is yet another case of the English localizers pulling a hint out of nowhere. The original Japanese one read, search for the lion key. And what that's referring is to this key called the magical key, which looks kind of like the head of a lion. This thing is essentially a master key, allowing you to unlock any door from the game. Your key count even changes to read A, which is apparently short for almighty. Don't quote me on that though. Now, why would the English translators replace that really useful tip with an oblique reference to an obscure mechanic? Your guess is as good as mine. Right, but now it's time for the final hint. Numero uno, baby. I regret that line. And we're talking about the absolute classic, the quintessential cryptic old man message from Zelda. Eastmost Peninsula is the secret. Now, this is from the very first dungeon you enter, so it's one of the first impressions that new players would have gotten of the old man. And to be fair, it's not wrong. Anyway, before we go any further, let's look at what the original Japanese text said. And, shockingly enough, it was completely different. You can't use arrows if you run out of money. Oh great, that's a really useful thing to know. Or at least, that's what I think. Clearly that's not what the localization team thought, as they completely replaced it with the now iconic, Eastmost Peninsula is the secret. Oh, and the fact that this line was written specifically for the English version makes the spelling and grammar problems even stranger. And you know I mentioned the updated translation for later releases of the game? Well, not even this one fixed the spelling error in Peninsula. But finally, for the Switch version of the game, Nintendo decided enough was enough, and they got rid of that pesky second N. Hooray! But hang on, where is the eastmost peninsula? What does that even mean? Well, again, there's no definitive answer, but we can get some clues by looking up what a peninsula even is. Because I'll be honest, I didn't know. I thought it was just an area of land, but it turns out it has a very specific definition. It's a piece of land that juts out into the sea, usually surrounded on 3 sides by water. And armed with that knowledge, let's take a look at some popular theories as to where this peninsula lies. Firstly, some people believe it's referring to this spot of the overworld, quite eastern, I guess, where you collect the White Sword, which is a more powerful version of the sword you start with. There's a few problems with that though. First off, while there is some kind of lake outside this cave, the water is surrounded by land and not the other way round. Plus, to pick up this sword, you need 5 heart containers unlocked, and when you finish Dungeon 1, the most you can have is 4. Okay, so if it's not here, then where is the peninsula? Well, some people theorise that perhaps we should be looking a little closer to home, inside the dungeon itself. Because if we zoom out and take a look at the layout, we can see that the dungeon's boss is right off to the east of the dungeon. And that would make sense. But again, we hit the peninsula problem. I really can't see a way in which this could be considered a peninsula. There's no water or anything like that, so I'm just not buying it. Luckily, there's one more spot it could be, back out in the overworld. If we look even more to the east, we can see this secluded group of trees, inside one of which Link can play money-making game. Now, this is actually another example of slightly wonky old man grammar, but putting that aside, this area seems a much more likely candidate. It's a lot more to the east, plus it's jutting out into a body of water. But what's the secret it's talking about? Well, the wall off to the side of this area is actually a false wall leading to a hidden area where Link can meet a secret moblin. It's a secret to everybody. Is this the eastmost peninsula? Maybe, maybe not. But it is certainly a peninsula, and it's certainly eastmost, and this is certainly a secret. Alright, and that's the lot of them. But wait, before you go, I've got 2 important things to say. Firstly, a lot of this video script was sourced from this amazing book by Clyde Mandelin, and the link to that is in the pinned comment. But even more importantly than that, this channel just hit 100,000 subscribers. I mean, that is crazy. I still, can't fully believe it. I just wanted to say thank you so much, guys, for sticking with me this long, and I hope you continue to enjoy my videos here on out. Subscribe if you're not subscribed for more videos like this. If you enjoyed it, you can follow me on Twitter at ThomasGDocs, and I shall see you next week. Bye!